Hello, everyone. We are continuing with our course, Hope in Suffering and Joy in Liberation. This is our second lecture. And let me share my screen with you with the PowerPoints, and we can continue. So what we had done so far, let me move this around here. Yes, okay. So what we had done so far, we began talking about Hebrew poetry, and we talked about genres, and we said that the genres are uh, features or characteristics of Hebrew poetry. And we began talking about certain characteristics of Hebrew poetry. First, we talked about terseness, which was a brevity, briefness. And we gave an example from Judges chapter 5. Then we began talking about rhyme. And rhyming is similar sounding words, but we said that in Hebrew, we don't have the typical type of rhyming, but rather we have a rhyming of thoughts and imagery, okay? So rhyming of ideas. So we said that the rhyming of ideas that we use in Hebrew poetry is that of parallelism. Parallelism can be semantic or grammatical. And so different types of parallelism are there. And in the last lecture, we talked about synonymous parallelism, where it repeats the thought in synonymous terms, or in other words, same terms, same ideas, same concepts, but different words, different ideas are used. Okay, so we said that we gave the two examples. Hear, O heavens, I will speak. Hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. So there are two synonymous parallelisms are there. Next, we'll talk about antithetical parallelism. All right, antithetical parallelism contrasts the thought with another, usually introducing the second line with but. Not always, but usually. Or in other words, these are opposites. Antithetical parallelism give opposites. So here are two examples of antithetical parallelism. First one, Proverbs chapter 10, verse 1 and 2. Here we go. A wise son delights a father, but a foolish son is a mother's grief. Okay, a wise son delights a father, but a foolish son is a mother's grief. Okay, so there is antithetical parallelism. So one is the idea of a wise son, but then here we have the opposite, a foolish son. So wise son is being contrasted with the foolish son. Okay, but it does a play of words by using the father and mother. Okay, so it doesn't mean that a wise son is only the concern of a father and a foolish son is only the concern of a mother. It doesn't mean that, but that is just a play of words. But we can see the situation of a wise son and the situation of a foolish son. It is contrasted. These are opposites. Ill-gotten treasure will not avail, but virtue saves from death. Okay, so here are two opposites. Treasure that is ill-gotten treasure. All right, so people are often looking for money, looking for treasure, looking for wealth. But if you go too far and get it in the wrong way, it won't benefit you any. But virtue saves from death. What is virtue? Virtue is much beyond money. Virtue is your character, your attitudes, your perspectives. That's your virtue. So a man of virtue or a person of virtue, really, it will save you from death. So Proverbs 10, 1 and 2. Second example, Psalm 1, verse 6. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. All right. Again, the conjunction but is there. The Lord watches over the way of the righteous. So one is there, and the second one, but the way of the wicked will perish. Antithetical. Okay, so contrasting the thought with another using the word but these are opposite ideas. Okay, all right, next, synthetic parallelism. Synthetic parallelism can be a catch-all, a variety of forms. In other words, the second line further develops the idea of the first line. All right, the second line further develops the idea of the first line. The two lines can work together to explain a broader image or work together for the same. All right, I forgot to set my timer to remind myself of my 15-minute timing. Let me just set it right now so I can keep it within that time. And here we go. All right, so this time when the timer goes off, I need to stop very quickly. No problem. All right, synthetic parallelism, second line further develops the idea of the first line. So first one was synonymous parallelism, where both are saying the same thing in two different terminologies. Second was antithetical parallelism, where the two are opposites, okay? The two lines are opposite ideas are given. Third is synthetic parallelism. All right, these are the basic three types, but there are various types of synthetic parallelism also. So synthetic parallelism, the second line further develops the idea of the first line. See, the two lines can work together to explain a broader image or work together for the same image. So it's like two lines are being developed to give, to kind of explain something that is broad and explain something that is vast, okay? But not enough to just give it in one line. So there are different types of synthetic parallelism, as I mentioned, okay? So one type is a completion or internal parallelism, or completion, where the second line completes the first. So here it is. Psalm 2, verse 6 is an example. Yet I have set my king upon Zion, my holy hill. Okay, so the second line is explaining the first line. Yet I have set my king upon Zion, and then my holy hill is the completion of the idea. I think when this was put together, I should have put my holy hill in a separate line, and I think that was missed. Okay, so this is completion or internal. Next we have next we have comparison. Talking about types of synthetic parallelism. Next is comparison. Proverbs 15:17. Better a meal of vegetables where there is love than a fattened calf with hatred. All right, so the first line, better a meal of vegetables where there is love. All right, so we're giving one that is a very positive thing, a meal of vegetables. Even then, those days, and even now. I guess vegetarian would be considered not so preferred, but the non-veg would be more preferred, and it seems to be the case today as well. All right, but there is a comparison here, okay? So do you want a meal of vegetables, or do you want a meat of fattened calf? In other words, meat, very sumptuous, meat-filled, fattening type of very tasty food. What do you want? Tasty food or something like that. So better is a meal of vegetables where there is love than fattened calf with hatred. So there's a comparison here. Next is climactic, all right, where a stair step of lines adds thoughts to the first. So it's like climbing steps, one by one, climbing steps. Here it is. Ascribe to the Lord, O mighty ones. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due to his name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of his holiness. So it's like going step by step. So we want to ascribe something to the Lord. You are offering something to the Lord. You are saying something about the Lord, but you're building on that idea step by step by step, like a staircase. Ascribe to the Lord, O mighty ones. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due to his name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of his holiness. So that's climactic, where there is a, so it is, the idea is being built up to a climax. Okay, and the climax here is worship the Lord in the splendor of his holiness. So worship is the basic idea. Worship is the climax. But in worship, you're ascribing to the Lord, you're ascribing glory and strength and the glory due to his name. So you're lifting God up, you're exalting the Lord. And in this, you're bringing worship to God. So that's climactic. Okay, we're still talking about different types of synthetic parallelism. Next one is chiastic. Okay, the chiastic. This is similar to the synonymous one, but only that the second line reverses the first. Okay, so this is kind of a reversal of the first line. Psalm 51, verse 1. Have mercy upon me, O Lord, according to your unfailing love. That's the first line. According to your great compassion, blot out my transgression. Okay, so this is chiastics, which is similar to synonymous, but only the difference is that the second line reverses the first line. Okay, have mercy on me, O Lord, according to your unfailing love, according to your great compassion. So, so what's happening is there's a reversal. What is being reversed? The order is being reversed. Okay, so the first line, his request, have mercy on me. How? According to your unfailing love. Now, second line, the how is where he starts. According to your great compassion, blot out my transgression. So it's chiastic. It's reversing the thought order. The pattern is being reversed. It's a chiasm that's often called, referred to as the chiasm. All right, there's a reversal. So I hope that the example helps you to understand this further. Next one, another type of synthetic parallelism is emblematic. So the second line serves as an emblem to illustrate the first line without any words of contrast. So look at how the illustration shows up. Proverbs 11, verse 22. A gold ring in a swine's snout. In other words, it's like putting a gold ring on a pig's nose. A gold ring in a swine's snout. A fair woman without understanding. So if you have a beautiful woman with no understanding, with no sense, that's like putting a gold ring in a swine's snout, which is pretty much useless. Proverbs 25, verse 25. Cold water to a thirsty soul. All right, cold water to a thirsty soul, and good news from a far country. So there is no words of contrast. In other words, cold water to a thirsty soul is like a good news from a far. So there's no comparison, word of comparison there. For example, even the first one, a gold ring in a swine's snout is like a fair woman without, doesn't do that. Okay, it's just giving it without any words of contrast. So it's like, it's emblematic. It's kind of being an emblem of each other, like that. Okay. All right, now I have some observations on parallelism, some thoughts, some general ideas about parallelism overall that will help to explain some of this. All right, parallelism. Frequently, the first of two parallel lines is more general, is a more general term, and the following part uses the more specific, extravagant, or explanatory terms or figures of speech to intensify and strengthen the emotions, sharpen the images, or make actions more powerful, real, and concrete. Do you follow that? The first of the two parallel lines is more general. But then the second one, all right, the following one, uses more specific language, more extravagant language. It's the explanation. It intensifies, it strengthens the emotions, it sharpens the image. All right. So the first one is general. The second one, it kind of like gives something more detailed and stronger, more concrete. It's like the punchline. That's really one way of putting it. All right. Another observation on parallelism. This is a bit longer, but please bear with me and observe carefully. The combination of this dynamic parallelism with its vivid figurative language allows for the rich development of themes, meaning, and ideas within poetry. Okay, so what is happening is the 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 words, the concepts are becoming dynamic. In other words, it's like it's becoming alive. Okay, the basic unit of poetry is the strophe or stanza. All right. So you say, I have one line or one stanza, a wide variety of larger parallel structures, refrains, alliterations, repetitions, acrostics, or other literary devices may be used to unite the whole into a larger unit. Okay. And there are distinct forms or types of poems, such as laments. So, for example, a lament would be a type of poem that is grieving over a huge loss, grieving over death, grieving over problems that are consistent and constant. And laments were common in Israel, especially when they had gone into exile. God had taken them away and put them into exile. So at that time, laments were very common. Next form would be thanksgiving. All right, giving thanks to God for his blessings, giving thanks to God for the way he has guided the people. Next would be praise songs. Okay, these are songs give glory and honor and praise to God just because he is God, just because he is worthy of praise. See, there's a difference between praise and thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is thanking God for specific benefits or specific blessings or for guiding or for whatever it is, thanking God for a particular purpose. But praise songs are just praise because of who he is. Praise because he is God. Praise because he is worthy to be praised. Okay, just no reason other than he's worthy. That's praise songs. All right, these are observations, more observations on parallelism. All right, here's another one. There is a striking absence of any narrative storytelling in Hebrew poetry. All right, Hebrew poetry doesn't seem to have much, the poetry doesn't seem to tell story. Now, in other ancient um, ancient poems from that time period, like the Babylonian, Mesopotamian, and even some of the Canaanite poetry that's available to us in various languages. They seem to use poetry and tell stories in poetry. I think in Malayalam also, poetry is used to tell stories. But in Hebrew poetry, you don't see that. Okay, poetry doesn't tell stories. It's just very unique in that way. But these poetic forms are often used in the narrative and prophetic writings to make images or descriptions of events or judgments quite vivid. So it brings color, it brings life, it brings focus to what the prophet is trying to say or to what the psalmist is trying to say. So it's very unique in that way. Some people say that Hebrew literature is just simply copied from other, or the surrounding nations, that the Jewish people really didn't have any contributions of their own. They just simply copied from everywhere. That definitely is not the case. Now, was there copying being done? Well, there was in the sense of sharing, even today. All right, even today, since we are part of a particular society, what is common in society becomes part of our language, part of our speech, part of what we do. And that's fine. That's normal. That doesn't mean we're stealing anything. We're just part of the society. Okay. But for the Hebrews, a lot of people would say that whenever you see anything similar within Hebrew literature, they would say, oh, see, these Hebrews, they were just a bunch of unlearned or incapable people. They were just not able to, they were just really a bunch of backwater type of people. But that is not the case, okay? They had their own literature. And of course, their literature was influenced by the surrounding nations and they influenced the others as well. There's mutual influence going on. Now, here's one example where the Hebrew poetry seems to have an absence of narrative storytelling, and Hebrew poetry becomes unique because of that. All right, next, another aspect of Hebrew poetry is this idea of meter. Okay, another idea is meter. In poetry, meter is the basic rhythmic structure of a verse or lines in verse. Okay, in other words, you can actually tap. Okay, that's really what is meter. Many traditional verse forms prescribe a specific verse meter or certain set of meters alternating in a particular order. All right, there's my timer there. Let me see if I can find a quick place, convenient place to stop. Okay, so that's meter. Rhythm. There is a rhythm of thought or logical rhythm rather than phonetic rhythm or sound rhythm. So meter and rhythm are closely connected. Okay, rhythm is a certain pattern. Meter is the measurement, the structure, okay, where that pattern shows up. And rhythm is basically that beat that and often it's a sound rhythm in modern poetry. But in Hebrew poetry, it's not a sound rhythm, it's a rhythm of thought, rhythm of logic. That's where it is different. All right. Okay, repetition will begin with repetition in the next lecture so that we can stop this within 20 minutes of time. All right. Thank you. I hope this has benefited you. Please take time to review this, get your notebooks out and a pen and take some notes on the different types of Hebrew poetry. And by all means, take a look at the Psalms and Job and Proverbs and all the different literature, poetical literature in the Bible, and begin to find different types of poetry within that as well. Okay. One specific thing that I would like for you to do is to take Psalm 1. Okay. Take Psalm 1 and separate the different lines and write in what type of parallelism do we find? Do we find synonymous parallelism, or do we find antithetical parallelism, or do we find some other types of parallelism? So go through and look at the different types of parallelism and take a view of this. Is it synonymous? Is it antithetical? Or is it synthetic? And if you can, what type of synthetic parallelism is it? So if you can do that, that will be great as well. Thank you so much. And uh, I will see you in the next class and we'll have a discussion about this as well. Thank you.